All right, good afternoon. This is the February 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Design and Project Review Committee. We do have a quorum. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Well, Michael, please call the roll.
Nyden,
Aye.
Gertis,
Aye.
Vanetta,
Aye.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Heinck,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Sterling.
Aye.
To approve the meeting minutes of January 13th.
A motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Michael, please call the roll.
Nyden,
Aye.
Gertis,
Aye.
Vanetta,
Aye.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Heinck,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Sterling.
Aye.
Great. All right. First item is 1801 Central Street, recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. James Hennessy, applicant, submits for a special use for a commercial indoor recreation facility in the B1A Business District, zoning code section 6-9-5-3. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case. And I see Mr. Hennessy, you've turned your camera on. Wonderful. Why don't you walk us through what you would like to do? And then if anybody would like to provide comment, there's the option to quote, raise your hand in this, or I will turn on the chat. If you want to put something in chat, we can just indicate if you have any public comment to make for this particular item.
Great, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm proposing that 1801 Central I convert to a jiu-jitsu gym and then 2 retail spaces. I believe it's zoned for retail, that would be okay, but the jiu-jitsu portion is a special use. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a martial art. So that's the request.
Why don't you walk us through what, as we've cycled through the plans, just kind of walk us through how the space is going to be used, and
Sure.
we'll have some questions about hours of operation and
Sure.
Parking and things like that.
Sure. So if you look at it from Central Street, the facade would be the middle section would be the access to the jiu-jitsu gym, and then on either side we'd have retail. We're looking for a healthy food concept on one side, and then maybe some athletic gear retailer on the other side. And then you'd enter the gym and it would open up into the main space. There would be some locker rooms, there would be some training space. And so the classes would be in the mornings primarily and in the evenings. And the space would be used to train adults, women and men. Traditionally, jiu-jitsu has been a predominantly male sport, but I think there's an opportunity from a self-defense perspective to get more women involved. It's traditionally been kind of a 18 to 25 25-year-old activity, but I think there's an opportunity to get some older folks. I mean, I'm 41, I practice pretty much 5 or 6 days a week. So we're going to have classes designed for, kind of the lower impact group. And then really my focus is kids, because, there's been a lot of, for the last number of years, I have young kids, but there's been a lot of press about bullying. And I think there's an opportunity to assist kids in becoming more assertive, not teaching anybody to hurt anybody else, but just to be assertive and defend oneself. So we'll have a program that we like to call Bully Proof. And so that's really the vision for the space. I think it's going to be, the building right now, as I'm sure everybody knows, is in extreme disrepair. There's been some significant, cave-ins of the roof, and the facade, can use some work. So we're just going to breathe some new life into it. And I think we're going to deliver a really, beautiful space, not only, with curb appeal, but also a real value add for the community.
Staff questions?
Yeah, hi. I had some concerns about your parking plan that you're providing for the patrons of the space as well as the employees. You cited some information there about utilizing the NU lot and purchasing permits and things like that, but who have you been in contact with about making those arrangements? Because I haven't spoken to any of your team members for that.
Yeah, great. My project manager, Donnelly's actually on the call. So she's been doing most of the heavy lifting there. So maybe I'll throw it over to her because she's had those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. We did talk to NU Parking. They do not patrol the lot before 8 a.m. or after 4 p.m. So we're allowed to use the lot during those hours. And then in addition, City of Evanston has over 100 spots that's located in the NU parking lot that are available for purchase. So that can be done online, and we've already looked into that.
Right, correct. We manage specifically 100 spots, and that's on the front of the lot adjacent to Central Street. And we only have access to the lot because the lot is owned and managed by NU. We have a sublease with them for those 100 spaces. So we only have access to the lot between Monday and Fridays between 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. And we have to relinquish the lot to NU for any special events, football games, or any other events that they would hold. So any agreements that you would have specifically with NU, you would have to, we would like to see whatever, contract you have with NU for that, because
Yeah, it wouldn't be an actual contract. We spoke directly with their parking department, and they told us when the lot opens up to the public. So you need to have a permit if you're parking in there between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday as well. But other than that, it is open, and they do allow members of the public to park in there without any sort of penalty.
Got it. Okay. As long as that's, if that's the arrangement that you have with them and they're good with that, that's fine. That's something that the City of Evanston wouldn't intervene. We would only have, like I said, get access to the 100 spaces Monday through Friday.
Right.
So Jim,
Questions? Oh, go ahead, Gary.
comment. Jim, you mentioned that the building is in disrepair, and I can attest to that. I'm thrilled to see something happening here. The current state actually has some structural shoring, temporary structural shoring, both interior and exterior. So any submittal, like permit submittal documents and plans, should address that, that it's in a temporary state, and what, we would need a structural assessment that pretty much, gets it past that point, and to, so your final build out is taking care of any temporary shoring that is in place now.
Absolutely. Yeah, as part of our due diligence, we did a structural engineering report. So we will definitely account for that in our final plans.
Okay, there's been some concerns about the roof. I know a new roof was put on part of it. And some repairs to other parts, but there has been impact to adjacent properties to the roof. So, be aware of that. A roof assessment should be done. Conversations with the adjacent owners should be done also.
Great. Yeah, we're totally redoing the roof. I mean, what they did was there was a cave in, and they did kind of patch things up a little bit, but our plan and our budget allows for and calls for a complete re-roof. So it'll all be brand new.
Okay, good to hear. Just a real quick question on the floor plan for your microgreens restaurant.
Yes.
This key number for the plumbing code is 10. So it'd be 10 patrons and combined 10 patrons and staff. Once you exceed that number, then 2 restrooms are required. So I guess my question is, would patrons of the restaurant, if you exceed that, if you have more seating and staff than 10, would patrons of that restaurant have access to your men's and women's restroom in the jiu-jitsu facility?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if that's the case and they have access there, then the one employee restroom is fine. If they will not have access, then keep in mind that threshold of 10.
Gotcha.
And this is a question for staff. Did the zoning analysis consider the restaurant an accessory use to I mean, I'm assuming this is a type 2.
That's how I reviewed it.
So therefore it doesn't need its own special, we don't have to
Correct.
review that for its special use.
Yep, correct.
All right, other questions or comments? I'm sorry, what are the hours of the gym?
The peak hours would be kind of 6 a.m. to noon. Typically, so the jujitsu instructor that I'm working with is named Jeff Serafin Jiu-Jitsu, and he had a business that was kind of right off of campus on Emerson. And then he moved to Main Street. And so he's been in the business a number of years, but his peak hours have always been kind of 6 to 9 in the morning, and then from 7 p.m. to 9 at night. And so that would be the peak hours. We're thinking through maybe a noon class, something like that, but those have typically been not heavily utilized. So the morning and the evening hours have been the prime time.
So my other question, because we have this often when we have an indoor commercial or indoor recreation uses very close to residential, is sound. Is there much? I mean, is there music played? Is there much sound created in this?
If there is, so jiu-jitsu is a pretty silent sport. I mean, it's one person speaking to a class of people, and then those people training. So occasionally, if it's like an open mat situation where you go and kind of just spar and roll around and practice techniques, occasionally there would be a radio playing at that point, but it's not like this heavy, like, I don't know, spin class where like you can't hear yourself think. It's not that at all.
Okay, so I would just want to make sure that either there's some kind of a condition of the special use as a staff recommendation that the rear doors stay closed at all times, so they're not. We've had this with other studios where they might open the door, and even just the loudness of the activity permeates out. So I'd want to make sure that the doors are staying closed. And at this moment, it doesn't sound like you're going to be loud, but that there's some kind of condition put in there that the applicant will be willing to put in any kind of soundproofing barriers if determined to be necessary at a later date.
Yeah, we're happy to do that as well.
All right.
I just had a quick comment. In looking at the retail uses, be interested in having there be composting provided as well as adequate recycling at the facility. I don't know what the historical waste services were, but we are strongly encouraging any food service uses to now start composting and include the space needed for those containers, both within the internal floor plan. So if there's a kitchen or a prep area, have a place just as you would for garbage, for food scrap, and then similarly in the alley or wherever waste is picked up. So I'd like to see that.
Okay.
And the city has a commercial hauler that is an Evanston women-owned business that is the exclusive compost provider for businesses in Evanston, and they're called Collective Resource. They can help you. They can even do things like scope out where the best places are to put containers and what strategies may work best for your specific staff and layout.
Okay.
Hi, going back to parking for a quick second, I just wanted to see if you can provide us with how many parking permits you would be leasing from the city of Evanston to provide for employees of the gymnasium in the NU lot during the days. And then secondly, if you are aware of the parking restrictions currently on the block, there are 2-hour limits, and then there's some select spaces that offer 30-minute parking.
Yeah, so I'm pretty familiar with the block. So the current parking situation, yes, I'm familiar with that. We think that it'll be 2 to 3 employees at any given time. So we plan on having permits for 3 people. 3 cars.
Okay, awesome. And then something to consider is if a business does decide to pick, if business does pick up, something to consider is maybe discussing, the use of the lot with YOU, because I know a lot of times they have availability there and it's adjacent to your space.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you, guys.
I would just like to quickly note to make sure that the entrances are ADA compliant. I realize this is just a rendering, but in the rendering, they're not ADA compliant and they show blips that would make them inaccessible. So just watch your entrances.
Okay.
And then the last comment I had before I was going to take public comment was if, in terms of bike racks, are you going to be seeking bike racks at some point from the city? I mean, we often, particularly for some of these fitness uses, we later get a request for bike racks closer to the store. So I don't know, or the facility, if that's something that has been contemplated yet.
We do, I do think we will have a decent amount of people, especially weather permitting, that will be riding their bikes. So yeah, I mean, I think that would be great. I personally live kind of down the street, so I'll be riding my bike. So yeah, that would be great. I'm not familiar with that process, but absolutely a bike rack close that would support the additional traffic would be a big win for us.
So Jessica and I see Chris and Laura on the call. Maybe between now and ZBA, you could try to figure out where a bike rack might go. Does that sound good, staff?
Sounds fine on my end.
All right, so that should be reflected as another condition, is the coordination of bike racks as well. Let's see, let's see, I'm just looking at public comments. I have Alderman Ravel has a public comment to make.
Trying to get me, there we go. So hello, everybody. And Jim, I think it's really exciting to think we'd actually get a really exciting new business going in that spot on Central. It's been really needing something for quite a few years now. I do have a follow-up question about the parking though, because when Northwestern has, for example, a football game or basketball games, they do use that parking is not going to be available. So are you thinking that you would not have classes on football Saturdays, for example, or what would be your provision when actually Northwestern is using those spaces on the weekends or in the evenings?
It's a great question. So we've kind of increased the radius of other parking lots that we're discussing getting some spots from to account for those days. Donnelly, do you want to chime in here on that?
Yeah, I think, honestly, on those days, one of the draws of this location is its proximity to public transportation. So I think that that employees and patrons will elect to take public transportation on those days. But there are some other lots in the area. The automotive shop, I'm blanking on its name right now, down the street, has agreed to let us use some of their spots because they're not open on the weekend. But I do think that in general, people will decide to take public transportation on those days.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Rivera. It'd be nice to get some of this more formally in writing so we can really judge just how it's going to work on those days.
And then the other thing to consider as well is that on days where there is, dense traffic in the area, some of the patrons may be trying to park in the residential neighborhoods, and those do have residential permit parking that are only specific to the residents on the block. So we just want to advise you that in the near future, once you get up and going, if patrons or employees are attempting to park on those blocks, they may be also cited because they won't have a permit to park on the block, and they wouldn't be entitled to purchasing a permit because they're not residents of the block either.
That would be very clearly communicated, not to park on residential streets.
Great, thank you.
I have a comment from Rob Shepherd. Rob, whenever you're ready.
Sure. I'm trying to turn, oh, there's my screen. Hang on a sec. Great. Mr. Hennessy, thanks so much for your presentation. I concur with Alderman Revelle. It's an exciting project. We, my wife and I, live behind you. We live behind Hune in the larger garage. And so just a couple of questions. We've worked with Hune regarding teamwork in terms of keeping the weeds down in the back alley, whacking those, or snow removal. Just generically, what are your thoughts around that? And then on the rear door, is it just a secondary egress you're intending it to be used for, or is there something additional?
So it's, in terms of snow removal and weed, the plan is to have a very clean, and we're going to deliver a very nice product, and part of that is to make sure that the exterior is just as nice as the interior. So,
awesome.
So yeah, so we're fully on the same page there. The garage door, yeah, I think it'll just be access to the back in case we need to move equipment in or out or something like that. But other than that, it'll just remain closed.
Yeah, so one of the things we did with Hune, which is very pleasant, is that we run a business out of our home as well. And the garage has a collection of inventory and the like, or equipment. And so we worked with Hune on the timing of deliveries and where they were parking so that we could get in and out of our garage with ease. I don't think it's going to be such an issue with your site and the distance. So, but thank you for that.
Of course.
And then we're very excited because we've overlooked this building for quite some time. And I think jujitsu is an awesome sport. And who knows, maybe I'll show up at the gym.
I'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. It is an awesome sport.
Yeah, and then secondarily, just curious about where the air conditioning unit's going to go. Obviously this is kind of a plat of survey type drawing.
Yeah.
Just curious about that.
Yeah, so right now, if you think of the building is kind of 2/3 front space, which will have a bow truss roof, and then the back third of the building has a bow truss currently, but we're thinking that it's probably a better use to have a flat roof there because we are going to have mechanicals.
Okay.
In terms of where specifically on the roof the mechanicals are going to be located, hasn't been decided yet, but towards the rear 1/3 of the building is kind of high level what we're thinking.
Yeah, so as you think about those mechanicals, the sight lines for the neighbors, I'd ask you to consider that. We're not solving world peace here, but just if you could consider that, I'd be grateful.
Of course, yeah. Again, we want the architecture is beautiful. We want to maintain that, and we don't want to create an eyesore for people. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. In short, we're very keen with your project here at 1730 Chancellor, and I'll let the other residents nearby speak for themselves.
Great. Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you for your efforts.
Seeing no more comments, is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
Just one quick comment on Mr. Shepherd's input there. So on, Johanna had stated earlier about sound attenuation installation for interior, consideration should be given for sound attenuation for those mechanical units, rooftop mechanical units. We have had issues. We do have an ordinance in place that states that the decibel level has to be 55 dBA when measured at the property line. So if you're going to be, those units are going to be near that rear property line, that may come into play. So again, consideration to sound attenuation and screening for those rooftop units. So I will make a positive recommendation to ZBA with the conditions that sound attenuation installation will be considered if deemed necessary, a submittal of a parking plan, and coordination of a bike rack installation.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Biden,
Aye.
Gertis,
Aye.
Vanetta,
Aye.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Pike,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
and Sterling.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Good luck. We look forward to seeing this building put back into use.
Thank you very much.
And ZBA is, Kate, is it what's the date for the ZBA meeting?
Not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, so the 16th of February.
16th, Tuesday the 16th at 7 o'clock, and it's a Zoom format as well for those who want to join.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. All right, next item, 630 Davis Street, recommendation of ZBA. Gabrielle Floria, applicant submits for a special use for a type 2 restaurant, Deep Purple Asia Bowl in the D2 Downtown Retail Core District, zoning code section 6-11-4-3. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body in this case. Is somebody on for this item? Gabriel, I think, yeah, there you go. All right, so why don't you walk us through what you're proposing in the space? This is the former Verizon space, right?
Yeah, of course. It's the one downtown next to, there used to be Verizon, and it has Aloha Po, Kienpa Valley next to it. Would you like me to share the screen so I can give a very brief presentation what it is, the concept?
I think if you just want to walk through what's in the packet, because a lot of us have reviewed the packet. If you want to tell us kind of how you're going to lay stuff out and.
Quick question. Yeah.
Okay, so Gabriel, why don't you go ahead and walk us through what you want to do?
Yeah, of course. So it's a very simple concept. My store sells acai bowls pretty much. It's fully customizable and it's one product. We sell fused moods as well. So we don't need a lot of space. So the space that we have at 630 is enough. We plan to have 2 tables, 1 countertop, and use the outside seating one summer. We want to get a countertop to prepare the food and have the prepare station. We only need 2 refrigerators to be in there. So we're going to have one in the back with the storage room. And then our product is pretty much indoor, and it's mostly going to be very minimal waste that we produce. Since our product is everything's fresh, there's no cooking, no need for hood. And our employees, we plan to use 1 employee during the winter, 2 during the summer. That's what we're doing right now. We have 2 stores here in Chicago, 1 in downtown area, another one in the Wicker Park. We only have 1 employee at a time, so it makes it easy for the operations to run very smoothly.
Staff, any questions?
So as I stated to the last applicant, per the Illinois Plumbing Code, combined employees and seats for patrons, your threshold is 10. So if you have over 10, then 2 restrooms are required. So just keep that in mind when you're laying this out for number of seats that you have for patrons and anticipated staff.
Yeah, as I mentioned to the last applicant as well, given this is a food service establishment, I recognize there isn't as much waste due to the preparation, but I think in the application, it was indicated most of the waste generated would be organic waste. So we'd like to absolutely see composting at this site.
Absolutely.
Other questions or comments? All right. Is there anybody who would like to speak publicly or have a question about this project? Okay, I'm seeing nothing. How are you planning to get deliveries to the store? How will they come in the front door? What's the plan here?
So we have very minimal delivery just because, like I said, we only have 1 product. So we do plan to get it early in the morning, the deliveries to the front door. But that shouldn't be a problem just because the 2 stores that I have here in Chicago, We go through the same process. We get them in the morning through the front door before, we open the store, and we have no problems here.
What's the hours of delivery?
So we usually do in the morning, pretty much between 6 and 7.
So I'd want to put in a condition that says deliveries before 8 o'clock, just because we have a really large volume of deliveries in our downtown, and we're trying to reduce them, particularly because they end up often delivering sometimes beyond the control of the store or restaurant owner. Delivery drivers will park in sort of the path of least resistance in the pedestrian walkways and bike lanes and other areas that are reserved for probably more vulnerable populations that are using our public transport or public mobility and public spaces. So are you okay with that? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's no problem. I can just.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from anyone? Going once, going twice? All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation to ZBA.
You want to put the delivery condition on there?
Yes. So deliveries to be done during morning hours only.
I'll second.
Nyden,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Biggs,
Aye.
Vanetta,
Aye.
Eckersberg,
Aye.
Tristan,
Aye.
Height,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Sterling.
Aye.
Great, motion passes. This will be at the February 16th ZBA as well at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Great. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Final item, 2223 Washington Street, recommendation of ZBA. Julie Kaufman, applicant, submits for a special use for a mixed-use business model that includes a business, vocational school, in addition to other principal and accessory uses in the I-1 Industrial Office District and the Overlay Redevelopment Overlay District. Zoning Code Section 6-14-2-23, 6-15-13-7.5. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case. All right, so who from this team is going to give the presentation?
Good afternoon. Tasha Wilson is intending to give our presentation. Just wanting to make sure that her audio was working. She was having a little trouble. Tasha, can you come in?
Well, I'm on my phone. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great, because it's been a struggle trying to get the computer to work. But again, I am Tasha Wilson. I am here to present on the AUX at 2223 on Washington. And the AUX will transform this vacant property into a high quality commercial space for a collective of local, mostly Black-owned businesses that support holistic wellness. The AUX will create a transformative place dedicated to healing as we connect in community, supporting one another to reach physical, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual, and financial wellness. In addition to supporting wellness, racial equity, of course, a few Evanston born and raised kids, business owners soon to be. The nuts and bolts of this is to create a mixed-use building with shared amenities and public service spaces. The existing building will be renovated to accommodate the new uses. Remodeling will be primarily interior with exterior scope limited to new windows, doors, paint, and site upgrades. Loading docks will be converted to pedestrian doors and windows, with one being converted for smaller deliveries. Existing green space will be restored and upgraded with additional landscaping. And per code requirements, existing parking is compliant and will not be reduced, but will be upgraded during renovation. We also are currently in discussions with the neighbor to accommodate overflow parking if necessary. So the proposed businesses include the Laundry Cafe, Wellbeing Chicago, Hair and Nail Salon, Sunshine Enterprises, Chef Q, a commercial kitchen for small retail use, and a pop-up retail. So the Aux will be a community-friendly environment that celebrates historical connections, promotes economic development, employs local residents, empowers Black and women-owned businesses, and builds lasting bonds throughout community commitment. So I want to thank you for your time, and if there are any other questions, we'll be glad to answer any of them.
All right, so why don't we take, there's a lot going on. I mean, I think there's a lot of uses. So I think you've sorted out a lot of the zoning issues. I've been on a few of those emails. Planning is Kate. I don't know if you want to speak to any of this, or Michael, anything related to planning and zoning. I think we're here because there's some special uses, but other comments or questions from a planning zoning perspective. Kate, are you there?
I am. I don't know if I have any specific questions.
Okay. You were very still. I didn't know if you had anything. All right. Okay, cool. Let's go then to, I think we had some parking questions in advance. Laura or Michael, do you have, or Chris, do you have any parking comments, questions?
You know, I was trying to understand from the diagram what's going on with the parking lot. I'm not clear entirely if you're resurfacing or not, but it would be really helpful to have a dimension drawing that describes what exactly is happening in terms of the parking and also where the curb cuts onto the street are.
Also, what's the total amount of spaces in that lot?
I'm going to ask Lissa, our architect, to jump in. I believe the count is 36, and we're not modifying the lot. We're just going to patch and paint, and the existing curb cuts are there. But Lissa, do you want to jump in and clarify?
Yep, that's right, Julie. Right now, there's roughly 18 spots, and the reason being that there is significant area of that parking lot that's allocated for large vehicle loading. So what we're doing is taking those loading areas and adding more parking in. That's how we're getting from the 18 to the 36. There is a lot in the front, and then there is in the back where you see those 6 spots. Again, that used to be loading, and so we're trying to tuck some more spots in there as well. So trying to maintain curb cuts, but just grow the parking where we no longer need such extensive loading zones.
So where you're putting in the lawn and garden area, I think right now is a big curb cut. So we would want that curb cut to be removed and have it be a curb again.
So the lawn and garden that you're seeing in that plan, the big green spot slice, that is there currently. So it's kind of in the distance. Yeah, exactly. It's in the distance in that photo. So what we're doing is we're shifting the curb cut from where it is just slightly over to the right. So
you're shifting it east is what you're saying, right? Is that what's happening?
Yep, we're shifting the curb cut to the east so that we can take that green slice and actually add more green to it. So that we're proposing to take the green landscape and take it all the way to the edge of the building, more or less. The metal shed building that you see there, and then the curb cut would be sort of offset from that one parking stall deep.
So this is where I think dimensions would be really helpful, because there are limits on how large of curb cuts you can have. And I'm not sure how large your curb cut is. And then there's also limits on how close it can be to the corner and stuff.
We'll also have to have some ADA compliant spaces in there as well.
Yes, we're showing 2 currently in the diagram.
So just for clarification, you mentioned the shed building. So what is the use of the shed build, or what will be the use of the shed building, or will that be eliminated? The metal building.
Yep, the metal piece will be, portion of that building will be retained. That is area that will be used for seating for some of the like the cafe and some of the commercial kitchen. Part of our special assessment application is for business and vocational school. There is an organization that would be one of the tenants that would hold small classes around learning how to be an entrepreneur. That would take place in that metal shed building. And then, you know, a little bit of the pop-up retail that Tosha mentioned would happen in there as well.
Okay. So when you go to permit on this, you would make another appearance to this committee. And I think at that point, we could look at elevations to see where you're adding and doors and windows and what the elevations would look like, and that would be helpful. So my only other comment here is on your floor plan, you're showing a single multi-user restroom. For Illinois Plumbing Code, separate facilities for men and women would be required here.
Then I had a question about the 6 spots for the staff.
Yeah,
How are those? I mean, I went past the site. Help me understand how that fits. What's coming down? And there's also a big pole there too. So I'm also worried that how does somebody navigate in and out? It just didn't seem like there was that much space, but I could be and I realize it's going to change.
Yeah, it's a pretty funky little area back there. Currently, there are 2 loading doors. So there's essentially 2 wide lane of loading. And so we're proposing, you see here the drive aisle, that's one of the lanes. The second lane gets converted into parking. There is a weird little shed building that would need to come down. That's pretty much half down already. So that would need to come down, and we need to do basically resurface it. But we do believe that the width is there without having done a full survey yet. We believe the width is there, given that there's currently two loading lanes that could be converted into a lane and parking.
so yeah, again, I think we just need to see a dimension drawing to make sure that all of this actually works out and makes sense. And then I guess also it's helpful if there's like a circulation that is considered. If you can, on that drawing, when you provide it, we would really need to see how traffic is expected to circulate as well.
Team, any other questions or comments?
I mean, I just am curious about the, seems like there's a lot of different uses. It looks really cool. I'm excited about all these uses coming together, and about there being a commercial kitchen for retail use. Would also strongly encourage planning in space for composting and recycling, since it sounds like there could be a lot of material being generated on site, kitchen scraps and things like that. And then I'm curious about the ability to provide electric vehicle charging access at this site. It does seem like you may have a lot of in and out traffic, and you've got a lot of spots. We've typically been asking other, larger types of facilities to consider adding in a few charging stations on site and allowing for there to be future stations installed later on through running electrical conduit. That probably is all tied up in the building's existing electrical service and whether or not it has the capacity to do that. But I would be glad to talk with you all after the meeting about ways to look at that. And then similarly, would be glad to talk about, since it sounds like a lot of this is going to involve some mechanical and electrical upgrades or lighting upgrades. I just want to make sure you're aware of the incentives through the 2 utilities in the area, so through ComEd and NICOR, to make sure you're applying for those and getting the most efficient equipment you can.
And then I had some concerns also about trash management, waste management. It seems like the trash area is pretty far from the building. And you actually have like a commercial kitchen and a cafe. how does the cafe and all of these places get their trash to the trash area?
So the location of the trash area is there because we're trying to keep it away from the public areas as much as possible so that it's not in a place where someone might be outside having a cup of coffee or doing something like that. So we've kind of tucked it back by the staff spots you'll see there. The commercial kitchen will have direct access out to it. They'll have a door that comes out towards that staff parking area. It's a little bit more remote for the cafe, but they would come through the door that's by the bathrooms there and across the lawn.
So are you planning to you would have outdoor cafe space in this lawn garden? Is that the idea there? Some outdoor seating?
I think the intent is that that's beautiful outdoor garden space, and that certainly folks would want to be able to maybe sit out there and have a cup of coffee.
Are you planning on having composting and recycling in addition to regular trash?
The aim is to try to do these things. The plan is not defined yet fully, though. The hope is that we can incorporate all those things, including the electrical chargers that have been talked about. But the creation of waste as being discussed here is actually quite minimal. It's not a full service sit down major restaurant. It's grab and go as secondary primarily to the laundry usage. And the commercial kitchen is primarily also separate. They really don't actually have an exceptional amount of waste because they're able to manage it very differently than sort of a retail kind of restaurant would be. So we're not expecting the level of a sort of traditional restaurant in that respect.
Sure, we are just encouraging any food related uses to plan for composting. I would not be surprised if there are policies that the city comes out with requiring composting at food service establishments in the near term or midterm. So that's somewhat regardless of whether or not you're generating the same amount as a cafeteria or a type 2 restaurant or something.
Yeah, I would say absolutely that's a priority. It's simply what I mean by it's not clarified is that our ideal scenario would be to incorporate it into our on-site growing gardens, which is part of what the landscaping includes, but I do not know if that's even allowable. If not, it would be taken for composting off-site, but that regenerative on-site would be the ideal sustainability measure from my point of view.
So why don't we plan on chatting? Because I think I can provide some additional insight into that and help you all problem solve through that.
Thank you.
So back to an early discussion about the circulation and the parking and everything. I know we focus a lot on parking, but I imagine this is going to be a pretty exciting neighborhood place to visit. And if people aren't necessarily driving and walking or riding their bikes, I think just need to make sure the plans reflect bike racks and a pedestrian path. I'm just thinking about the people walking in from the neighborhood. We don't want people walking down the quote unquote alley, the Pittner alley, helping think about what that would look like in terms of how people would get into this use. And then even a pedestrian, sidewalks within the parking lot to create a safe pedestrian pathway is really important too.
I would echo the need for safe pedestrian walkways, and then also consideration of bike racks on site as well.
Any other comments?
Well, John, it's just, I have some concern about approving this because I feel like we can't really understand the parking right now because there's a lot of information that is still out there. We don't know how wide the drive aisles are and versus the lanes. We don't know where the curb cuts are related to the streets.
I'm okay moving it forward. It sounds like the applicant's ready to make it work in terms of the parking and the curb cuts. I think they're also trying to get to the February 16th. I think there's some development timelines they have. I think if we can provide our comments and maybe in the intervening time between now and the 16th, the ZBA, they can work a little bit harder with us on the curb cuts and making sure we get some more information about the parking. Because I agree. I think this parking always becomes the biggest issue on these sorts of projects. We want to make sure it's done right, so we're not saying saying no, but definitely needs to be better fleshed out.
Along the Washington side of the property, I think it's really important to reestablish the curb line. It's particularly sketchy near where the parking is on the east side of the property. It's a little bit harder to understand exactly what to do along the Pittner Avenue side on the east, because the curb has essentially been established through a variety of curb stops that have been placed, but it actually looks like there isn't a very good elevation difference that would allow the installation of an actual curb without redoing the entire parking lot, which the applicant has indicated they're not planning on doing at the moment. But I do think that the curb stops have to be, or some sort of barrier has to be extended where the parking is, between the parking and the street. And it's a little confusing with the openings, given that there's utility poles and some other things going on. So that's why, I mean, this is just like really important. This stuff get all straightened out, and it, you know, it's going to have an impact for things like snow removal too.
But very much, given that we have so much snow right now and so many commercial users right now are struggling to find a place to put their snow, and residential properties as well, I think we'd also want to make sure that you have space in it. And I would want the minutes to reflect that you're going to put together a plan to store snow on site. So it's not that alley and street are very attractive to push the snow into, but that is not what our code allows to have happen. So that would be a big one as well.
You're going to require that it's on site, or that we have an agreement with a separate parcel? I mean, you're just basically saying we can't put it on the public, in the public.
Right. So you'd want to have, as a special use, you'd want to have a plan for where you're going to put your snow.
Yes. Okay. So if we negotiate an agreement with a neighbor for a long-term use of site space, that's acceptable as an alternate, is what you're saying.
I would hope the wards would let you put some snow on that big lot that they've done nothing
It may
with.
not be the wards, it may be a different neighbor, but right. Thank you. And I appreciate your earlier comments. We are, you know, we have the site under contract. We're not yet owners, and it is predicated on being able to get through a process. And if not, the project falls apart. So we will certainly work with you. We agree with all of Laura's comments, and we'll work to get the clarifications in between now and the next, so that everyone's clear that we will comply and we all want to get to the same place.
So maybe
does
next
the city
week you could
plow
have
that alley? Does the city plow that, even though it's an alley, the Pittner side?
You know, I would really have to double check, but my understanding is, although we all refer to it as the Pittner Alley, that it's an actual street. It is Pittner Avenue. It just is narrow. It doesn't have defined curbs for a lot of it. And so
Right.
I believe the city plows it. I mean, certainly the residents who live along Washington, I think, have a reasonable expectation that it's plowed so they can get to their houses.
Okay, well, we should double check.
I will
Okay.
double check and make sure that the city
Okay.
is plowing.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I think we'd like to see a meeting with Public Works regarding the alley in the next, week and day in advance of the ZBA meeting. If that is possible with staff's schedule and your schedule. And then if this plan can also reflect any pedestrian and bike rack usage, that's also good. And I think we said circulation, curbs, and a snow removal plan for the parking lot. Laura, anything else for parking lot that we need?
When you put the plan together, I'm guessing where you're putting your 2 ADA spots, now that you've mentioned there are 2 of them, but you really do need to call those out just so that for counting, that we make sure that everything is agreed to. Yeah, I mean, this is a project that I think could be really good and really good for the community, and potentially quite a lot better for the community than being next to a manufacturing site. But the parking is kind of the caveat here. And, we just want to make sure that everything is according to, reasonable standards so that it doesn't create that negative impact.
Thank you. We share that concern.
I have a question about the trash location shown on the site plan. Just curious, is that on the property? Or it sort of looks like it might be off the property. Then I was just curious to know how that trash area is going to be screened.
It is on the property. If we go back and look at the survey, I think it's easier to tell. It has this weird little jog at the bottom. That area is currently fenced. So it has a screened fence around it currently that we would either retain, likely retain and upgrade a little bit. It's sort of I think it's sort of more of a chain link thing now. So we'd upgrade it to be a little bit of a more attractive screening element around the trash.
Any other questions or comments? I did just get confirmation that we do plow that alley
Thank you.
/ Rail Street.
So check that off my list of things to do. But I think we should stop calling it an alley because it's really not an alley. Bittner Avenue. Just want to be clear about that.
Well, then we should definitely be putting a sidewalk down that street then.
That would be lovely.
Any public comments that anyone would like to make? Alderman Fleming, you had indicated you would wanted to make a comment.
Yes, can you see me or can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yep. So my ward adjoins, well, I guess I'm a block or so down from this, but I just wanted to chime in my support. I think the sidewalk piece, Johanna, I really like. I hope we don't make that the responsibility necessarily of the property owners, but I do think a sidewalk there will be great, particularly for their business. But yes, it is not an alley, it is a street, and I think this will be a great use of it. I actually was able to see the space. It sounds like they are excited and willing to do, the reasonable things that we asked them to do. And I'm just excited for us to see a new business there where we have really just had manufacturing, and those residents have been super patient with the traffic that already comes around there kind of to cut through. So hopefully this way it'll be, just more lively for the residents who are there, who've had to endure kind of a forgotten land back there. So I definitely support it and look forward to you all getting this through the process.
Anyone else that show of hands, put in the chat, just start speaking, that wants to make any comments? Great. Well, I know you guys have looked at a ton of spaces and it's great that this building is going to be put back into use. So super exciting. Thank you. And is there somebody who would like to make a motion?
I would make a positive recommendation to ZBA and would defer to Laura for any conditions. So.
I think the biggest thing is contingent upon having a discussion with staff regarding the parking lot dimensions, the restoration of curb cuts, and the traffic circulation.
And snow.
And snow management. Thank you, Johanna.
Okay.
And location of bike racks. Sorry.
Pedestrian access.
I'll make a positive recommendation to ZBA with a comprehensive parking, pedestrian, and bike plan.
Including snow management.
Including snow management. See, if you were coming through in the summer, it wouldn't be a big deal, but because we're all dealing with the snow, it's first in front of our minds.
We think year round.
Yeah, especially right now. All of us who don't deal with snow are dealing with snow. But okay, is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, Michael, please call the roll.
Snyden.
Aye.
Gertis.
Aye.
Biggs.
Aye.
Vanetta.
Aye.
Eckersberg.
Aye.
Tristan.
Aye.
Hank.
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
and Sterling.
Aye.
Congratulations, keep going. February 16th at Dapper. We will see you then. And I think Laura will be working with you next week on some parking stuff, sounds like.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. There is no other business, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, everybody. Stay warm. See ya.
See ya.